I want to reflect with you on an issue which really has troubled me and, in a sense, stimulated me from being a student of history, because people tend, when they look at history, this is how historians trick a lot of people. They take you way back in history. They take you to a point where it's irrelevant to you now. But the history of the last 50 years or 100 years, very few people know about. How many people actually know about the Korean conflict, the Korean War, and how serious the Korean War was? Okay, and even now, when you go back a little bit, you'll see that the average person, especially young people, they have no clue as to what happened. But take them back to the Greeks and the Romans, and they can tell you something now. It might not be the actual truth. It's sort of a fantasy type of Greek and Roman society, but they have an idea. And this idea goes back to 1945. In 1945, the Allied forces, British, American, European, whatever, fighting the Axis powers of Italy, Germany, and Japan, they reached a point of frustration. And around 1945, the Americans especially wanted to end the war. Now, they were getting signals from the Japanese government that the Japanese were just about ready to surrender. But they wanted to make a conclusion to this war that would not only stop the conflict, but it would also give them a predominant position in the world. In other words, you want to make a statement. If you want to be the superpower in the world, you have to do something, or you have to have something that people will recognize you as the superpower. Okay? So the Americans dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. This is a nuclear weapon. And this is a picture of Hiroshima after this initial destruction. And you can see how destroyed this major city was. Over 100,000 people, say 130,000 they say, they died instantly. Instantly, they were dead. And the Japanese society, at that point, they were on their knees. And they then, but to make it worse, they went to another city, Nagasaki, and they dropped another one. So they were making a statement to the world that we are here. It is no longer the British or the French. We are the ones. It's not the Russians. We have the Russian scientists. We have the German scientists, right? We're on top. So they made their statement. But what is important to me as a student of history, and this is important for us to reflect upon when we think about ourselves, is that by 1969, now count those years, that's only 24 years. Think of your own life, right? 24 years, count back. In 24 years, the Japanese had bounced back to become a world economic power. In 24 years. After a horrendous Holocaust experience, they came back. What is it that the Japanese people had? Something about their character. They're very humble people. Something about their leadership. They say that even in the recent nuclear fallout in Fukushima, that when they were cleaning up certain areas and the people had to go to the stores, they even have to measure the nuclear waste, whether it's so much in the food. And people are lined up, and then when they realize there's a long people in the line, the ones in the front put food back for the other ones. Think about this. Think what would happen in America or Canada, right? Especially America. if they said it's a blackout now, you're not going to have any food, they would be fighting each other for food. And they would go in the store and buy, 100 cans of tuna fish. Not 2. They buy 100. Okay, but the Japanese, there's something in their culture. And there is a culture of cooperation with each other, humility, and self-sacrifice. Okay, and they respect their leadership. 24 years. The Germans, this is Berlin in 1945. They bombed Berlin into the Stone Age. And this huge metropolis was wasted. Think about pictures of Syria, right? This was wasted in 1945. They killed the leadership, destroyed the army, took over the country. But again, by 1969, that's Berlin. 24 years. Look at this. In 24 years, they had bounced back to be a world economic power. What did the Germans have? What is it about them? To show you what human beings are capable of doing. And this is important for us to be able to reflect upon when we look at some of the destruction happening in our ummah. And sometimes we think we can never come back from this. But no, that's not the kind of thinking that the Japanese had or the Germans had during this holocaust.